Well, good morning to you this morning. That's awesome. And I hope you're here ready to go to battle, because that's what we've been doing here for last several weeks, is gearing up for a new year, but gearing up for a new season of life in a world that's kind of lost its way in a lot of ways. And so we're talking about the spiritual dark ages. A hero must rise. And we've been talking to you out of the book of Judges, and we'll continue to do that this morning. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to just bring you up to date if you weren't here last week. And by the way, if you were here last week and you're here today, you have perfect attendance for 2013 so far. Yes, you're well on your way. You've got about 52 more to go. And we'll be happy to have you stand and applaud at the end of the year when you're you've perfectly attended every service at Sensill. Be awesome. So stay on track, stay on target. It's a great goal. Last week we talked about the fourth cycle of a 7-cycled process in the book of Judges. Okay, and each of these cycles have certain characteristics, and we see the nation of Israel cycling through these cycles one after another in the book of Judges. And unfortunately, with each cycle, there's also a downward trend in the cycles. And so that what we see as exemplary heroes and sheroes early in the book of Judges, we see heroes and sheroes later in the book of Judges. But those heroes and sheroes aren't as high, maybe aren't as heroic, perhaps, as previous heroes. And so there's heroes, but they're a little less of a hero. But God uses them nevertheless in order to bring about change, in order to bring about hope. And that's what this is about, is seeing each of us have hope again, because there's so much at stake in when we see, family disintegration and national crises, and we see a lot of things being questioned and redefined. Defined and redefined. And so it's important for us not to lose our way in all of this. And I think that we are in the spiritual dark ages in a lot of ways, but I think there's a lot of hope. And we heard a song about that. Jesus is that hope. And what we want to do today, again, is just kind of review, just touch base on a couple of things from last week. And then we're going to deal with Judges 5, which is the song that follows the battle that Deborah and Barak and involved Sisera, the Canaanite military general. It involved King Jabin, the king of Canaan. These are some of the primary characters in the story that we dealt with last week. Well, you probably are going to remember some of those things. And as I think about just bringing you up to speed today, we'll just pull slide number 3 up. And we'll look at the tail end of Judges 4 once again, and just to kind of get you where you need to be. And then we're going to have a special reader come out and read for you the entire chapter of Judges chapter 5. And we're looking forward to that this morning. She will be out momentarily to read for you those verses. And just let me say here that we've dealt with a lot of pretty critical topics in this series. And today is another one of those Sundays, because I want so desperately to see heroes rise up in our day and time. And I'm going to do my very best to get us in a position to rise up and lead in ways that perhaps we don't see very commonly happening today. Leaders who are distinctive in their leadership, who can be heroic in a very dark time. And so we're going to be dealing with some critical things, so I'll just give you a heads up on that today, perhaps some sensitive things. So again, feel free to make sure you utilize children's ministries and things, because I want to be open with you and transparent, authentic, and all those things, and speaking no mistaken terms, and be very clear in what I have to say. And so it's another one of those Sundays, and so I want you to be aware of it. But what we're going to see is that today we get to, after a pretty intense wrap-up of chapter 4, we get to sing. There's a song that Deborah writes after the victory. And I just want to say to you this morning that just because we're in the dark ages doesn't mean we stop singing. There is a song we must sing. We still cheer for things. We still sing. We still produce poetry in the dark ages. We still produce works of art in the dark ages. We still engage our culture. We still enjoy our families. We still try to make our world a better place, even though it's in the dark ages. You can't abandon the arts in the dark ages. You have to pursue them. And you have to do your best to present that message of hope that we've sung about, heard about already this morning. Present that message of hope in culturally relevant ways. And so, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is, if you make poetry to honor God. If you play sports, do an excellent job. If you work a job, present Jesus through how you work your job. Maybe your job is not all that you're about, but doing a job of excellence is who you're about and what you're about. And so I'm saying to you this morning, just because we've dealt with these pretty heavy things, this morning in chapter 5, in just a second, we're going to see this, that singing is critical to being a hero in the dark ages. Only heroes can truly sing in the dark ages. Why? Because they're being heroic. They're giving themselves to the right things. So just because we're in the dark ages doesn't mean that we withdraw from a world. No, it's time to engage it. It's time to sing. It's time to hear the music that God is playing through the life of our heroes and to play those songs boldly and to live robustly and fully alive. I think we get so caught up sometimes we miss life purpose. We miss life's meaning because we try to make it all about maybe a certain agenda item or an idol in our life. And God says, no, I've got a song for you to sing, but I want you to lean into my purposes for your life. And then you'll be able to really sing it. And don't tell your life what you're going to do with it. Listen to what your life is already telling you to do. Whether it's your interests or talents and abilities, and lean into that. And sing your music. Because what the world in the dark ages so desperately needs is a person who is fully alive. A person who is passionate about what they do. If it's hitting a free throw and they're passionate about that, hit that with excellence. Praise God. You see Jesus in that. It's writing music, writing a song, working a job, an area of special interest. You got to sing, you got to rejoice, you got to cheer, you got to have His blessing in the dark ages. And the way we have that is to keep singing no matter how dark the night gets. And I don't care who's elected. I don't care where they take us. I don't care what people you have to work for at your job or the people that you have in your family. I don't care about the darkness that inflicts. But you know why? Because I know I care about it, but I know it's not permanent because you can be heroic. You can be a light that can shine. And whether it's a dark place of employment or a dark family situation or even a dark nation, you can be a light, a hero, by finding your true joy and your passion and singing that song. So I just want to preface chapter 5 with those remarks because we have to still sing in the dark ages. Now, to backtrack, Judges 4, slide number 3, you'll remember from last week that Yael, remember Yael, who is, her name means wild mountain goat. In fact, did you try that on your wife this week? Did anybody call your wife a wild mountain goat? Okay, I tried it. I may not use it anymore, but I tried it. And I think I thought maybe it was that new cologne I got for Christmas that maybe was communicating the wild mountain goat idea. But I think that probably Deborah the honeybee, as I said last week, is probably a little more acceptable. But Yael, who's a wild mountain goat, went out to meet Sisera, and Sisera was the military general of the Canaanites, and said to him, "Come, my Lord," a term of respect. She affirmed him. She lifted him up. She gave him his place. He's coming off of a battle of defeat. He's run for 6 miles. He's tired. He's exhausted. And she said, hey, she sees him. She sees the problem, the issue. She's quick at reading the situation. She gives him a place of respect. Come right in. It's a friendly invitation. She violates social protocol in doing so. This was not a normal way to handle it, especially if you're by yourself, a female at your tent. Everybody else is gone to invite another man into your tent. Definitely breaks social protocol. But he's tired. He's weary, right? And she said, come on in, my Lord. Be right at home. Don't be afraid. She detects fear in his face. And so he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket and gets him. He's probably wet, still muddy, afraid. He needs a dry place, a safe place to hide from the enemy. Verse 19, before he goes to sleep, he says to Yael, he says, verse 19, I'm thirsty, he said, please give me some water. And she opened, and note this, she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him up. And I think what we have to see here is that Yael is over the top in her hospitality. She's so inviting. She breaks social protocol in what she's doing here. But the sense that I get is that she wants to convey to him, I'll be everything that you need. In fact, he asked for water and she gave him a skin of milk. And I looked a little further into this. And I kind of mentioned it last week that nomads knew how to make a milkshake with no refrigeration in 1125 BC, if you can picture that. They knew how to do it. Here's how they did it. Because I got to digging into this because I wanted to know how and why does she give him milk instead of water? In fact, some would tell you, and I don't know, it may be old wives' tales and fables, but some will tell you that a glass of milk right before you go to bed helps you sleep better. You know, I don't know that is true. I just know when I eat cookies and milk, I just feel really good all over. Okay? There is a pleasurable feeling. I have to admit it. And so perhaps there is some veracity to that or some legitimacy to that viewpoint. You'll have to Google it and search it kind of like I did this week, and you're going to be all across the board in what you read. But she knows this guy's weary. She knows what he needs. And she puts icing on the cake, or we could say milkshake on the situation, because in 1125 BC, they would they would put goat milk into an old skin bottle and shake it. And the skins were made by sewing goat skins or even lamb skins together with the hairy part of the skin on the outside, of course, thankfully. But they would sew these skins together, and as nomads, clay jars would not cut it. It's too fragile. They're heavier. You're going to have a tougher time packing up and moving out like Yael often did as a Kenite nomadic wife. Okay? And so they would have these skins, and they would put the goat milk in the skins. And when they would shake the milk, it would curdle or ferment, and it would mix with the bacteria that remained in the skin bottle from a prior use. It may have had wine in it from a prior use. And so when you put goat milk into the skin and you shake it and it mixes with the bacteria and fermentation already included inside the goat skin, it would create, voila, a 1125 BC milkshake. And it was a delicacy, I understand. And in the Bible, it doesn't sound very good to me, does it? And to you, probably. But it was a delicacy to these guys. Yael knows it. And what we also discover is that when we look at milk in the Bible and the way it's used, we see that it's a symbol of luxury. It has a sensuous quality to it. It lingers on the palate in terms of taste. It's a very pleasant taste experience. And the sense is evoked that everything's going to be okay. In fact, when we see people reference the land of Canaan, the key phrase, and this is several passages, the key phrase often used to describe it is a land of milk and honey. Sweet. It's pleasurable. The land of milk and honey. Yael is communicating something by this. She's saying to a mighty Canaanite warrior, I'll be everything you need. And by the way, here's a little milkshake on top. This is all going to be good. You need food, I'll provide it. You need shelter, I'll provide it. You need a warm place to sleep, I'll provide it. She's saying as much, but she's not really saying it. It's just in her actions. In fact, if you need, whatever you need, if you need a woman, I'm here. Okay? Just to be blunt about it. That's what she's saying. And sensing that he thought he had an ally, Sisera, verse 20, says to his friend, stand in the doorway of the tent, he told her. And if someone comes by and asks you, is anyone in there? Say no. Sounds like a cover-up, and indeed it is. She's a wise woman. This is happening in real time. And she understands something that, number one, this guy's in a desperate situation. Number two, the Canaanite alliance has broken down. Number three, the Israelite warriors are evidently winning. And number four, she has a decision to make. What am I going to do? Verse 21. But Yael, the wild mountain goat woman, Heber's wife, picks up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Wow. And just then, Barak, verse 22, came by in pursuit of Sisera. And we don't know how much time elapsed, but there was a measure of time. But he was still inside the tent. And Yael went out to meet him. Come, she said, I will show you the man you're looking for. And so he went with her. Slide number 4. He went with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. And when we look at how men are presented in the story, what we see is that there was a hesitancy on the part of men to lead. And secondly, men are lying at the feet helplessly of a woman because he bought into the seduction of her ways. And as a result, he lost his life. And God, who is sovereign in all things, God, who never necessarily endorses the practices and the means and methods of some of the heroes and Judges, in His sovereignty, He still uses their heroic ways, albeit questionable ways. God still sovereignly uses these things to accomplish a very heroic purpose, and that is the sparing of His nation Israel. Otherwise, they would not have survived this period we know as the Dark Ages. I want to say something here as well. The Bible is full of dupe stories, stories of deceit and trickery. You can find these stories throughout the Bible, and if you like those kind of stories, read the Bible. You're going to enjoy what you read. But this is one of the more prominent dupe stories. Some of you guys from West Virginia maybe would call them the suckers of the Bible. Okay? I don't know. I guess I'm the only one here. There's the suckers. There's the guys that take the bait. Someone puts out the bait, and they bait the trap with cheese, and boy, you're on it like that. And before you know it, you're caught. And there's suckers in the Bible. And what we see here is Sisera, in a very tired, exhausted, and discouraged state, became the sucker. He was duped. And he was duped by a Bedouin, nomadic woman who knew exactly how to play him and get him right where he needed to be in order to make his life subject to her hands. And I want to say something to you guys. In the Dark Ages, I appreciate those who are being heroic in the Dark Ages, heroes and sheroes. But I will tell you, in the Dark Ages, women become more bold in the Dark Ages. And you guys better be careful and watch your steps in your life, because you don't want to be the dupe. You don't want to be the guy who's taken in and deceived and tricked, that can thwart God's plans for your life, for your family, for your marriage, for your future. And what's really interesting is that God reduces characters to the status of a dupe in the Bible as part of His judgment against them. Those who are duped cannot see the obvious because they don't have the Lord's wisdom. And so, men, be careful. And if you run into a lady with nothing to lose, she will play you to the hilt. And you'll be left to pick up the pieces. Now, not all ladies are like this. In fact, ladies, there are many Deborahs. And thank God for the Deborahs. Like I said last week, where would we be without the Deborahs? Godly women who raised these little heroes up from an early age to impact our world. But the last thing you need, men, is to get caught up in a dupe story of your own. And your life pays the consequences of that. And then I would say, women, to address you here, before we move on quickly to Judges 5, I would say, use your sexuality in a God-honoring way. Honor God with it, okay? Let's just take the hammer and the tent peg out of the equation. Let's just less that out, okay? Look at how Yael made this man feel. Look at how she does it. She honors him. She affirms him. She provides what he needs. She makes him a milkshake. Okay? Listen, I'm serious. Take out the tent peg and the hammer. This lady is telling you how to treat your husband. All the men said, amen. Take out the tent peg. Take out the hammer, right? She is showing you, and I love how God does this. He uses this raccoon of a woman, mountain goat of a woman, to tell all you women, this is how you help a man to be so at home and affirmed in your presence. And I can just see these guys getting home from work, throwing that thing up in the park. Man, I am going to see my Yael. Okay? And he's gonna get to that door as quick as he can because there's milkshakes and there's warm blankets and there's warm conversation and there's my Lord. I mean, my Lord, come on. She's showing respect and love to me. How could I not love this woman? Right? Now again, do not put especially after this message, no hammers and nails on the table. Okay? We'll send messages other ways. But she's showing you how to love your man. Okay? So you godly women, love your husbands. And it kind of reminds me of Kenny Chesney when he says, you had me from hello. Right? You want to have him from hello in your marriage. And so let Yael, in this left-handed kind of backdoor kind of way, show you how to love your husband. Now listen. And then women, you are such an honor to God. You are the highlight of creation. You are so blessed. Use all parts of your life. Use it to honor God, not to seduce someone in some dupe story and thus jeopardize his life. Now listen, 23. On that day God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. They had destroyed, Yael just took care of Sisera, the leader of the Canaanite alliance. Without his chief military leader, the Canaanite alliance was in jeopardy, and in fact it did fall. And in time, King Jabin himself, the leader of these Canaanite hordes of soldiers, were destroyed. Now, in all this darkness and violence, a song is inserted. And I prefaced my remarks earlier this morning by helping you to understand that even though there's violence and hate and darkness in the world, you still have to sing. And we're going to have Gabby Brown come out, and she's going to read for you the entire chapter of Judges 5. Again, a song is best experienced if you read it all the way through or sing it all the way through. So she's just going to read it all the way through. And then what I'll do is come back and I will select a portion of chapter 5 for treatment in light of our time and schedule this morning. I'll just do a part of it to help bring it home this morning. Gabby, can we make her welcome to the microphone? Yes? Yes? I don't know. I want to make sure we're on target with you there. And you share Judges 5 with us, would you?
Okay. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of sang this song. When the princes in Israel take the lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, praise the Lord. Hear this, you kings. Listen, you rulers. I will sing to the Lord. I will sing. I will make music to the Lord, the God of Israel. O Lord, when you went from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, the earth shook, the heavens poured, the clouds poured down water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Yael, the roads were abandoned. Travelers took to the winding paths. Village life in Israel ceased until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel. When they chose new gods, war came to the city gates, and not a shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with Israel's princes, with the willing volunteers among the people. Praise the Lord. You who ride on white donkeys, sitting on your saddle blankets, and you who walk along the road, consider the voice of the singers at the watering places. They recite the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous acts of his warriors in Israel. Then the people of the Lord went down to the city gates. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, break out in song. Arise, O Barak. Take captive your captives, O son of Abinadab. Then the men who were left came down to the nobles. The people of the Lord came to me with the mighty. Some came from Ephraim, whose roots were in Amalek. Benjamin was with the people who followed you. From Machir, captains came down. From Zebulun, those who bear a commander's staff. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah. Yes, Issachar was with Barak, rushing after him into the valley. In the districts of Reuben, there was much searching of the heart. Why did you stay among the campfires to hear the whistling of the flocks? In the districts of Reuben, there was much searching of the heart. Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did he linger by the ships? Asher remained on the coast and stayed in his coves. The people of Zebulun risked their very lives. So did Naphtali on the heights of the field. Kings came, they fought. The kings of Canaan fought at Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. But they carried off no silver, no plunder. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away. The age-old river, the river Kishon, march on, my soul, be strong. Then thundered the horses' hoofs. Galloping, galloping go his mighty steeds. Curse Meroz, said the angel of the Lord. Curse its people bitterly, because they did not come to help the Lord against the mighty. Most blessed of women be Yael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Most blessed of the tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, and she gave him milk. In a bowl fit for nobles, she brought him curdled milk. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his temple, she shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, he fell. There he lay. At her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell, dead. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out, Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed? The wisest of her ladies answered her. Indeed, she keeps saying to herself, Are they not finding and dividing the spoils? A girl or two for each man, colorful garments as plunder for Sisera. Colorful garments embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck. All this is plunder? So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but may they who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had peace for 40 years.
That's awesome. So we've got to sing in the dark ages. And God gave Deborah a great victory and Barak and the Israelites a great victory. And they were able to sing and rejoice in what God had done. And that's what we have to do in the dark ages, is to have a song, to sing it completely, and honor God with whatever music He's put in our heart to play. I want to go to slide 13. We're just going to catch the tail end of this chapter this morning, but I think in light of the background I've given and the very capable job that Gabby was able to do for us in reading the whole chapter, I think you're set up now for verse 24 of Judges 5. Most blessed of women be Yael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. I love how the homemaker makes the song. What a she wrote. Verse 25, he asked for water and she gave him milk in a bowl fit for nobles. She brought him curdled milk, so she served it in the finest kind of a bowl that she could find. And like I said, she whipped up a milkshake. He's so tired. Look at the screen, verse 25. He's so tired. He's on the ground. She whips this thing up. She shakes in the goat skin. She pours it out. This ancient milkshake with these curds in it. And I would think that milk with chunks in it would be nasty. But evidently, this, like I said, it was a very good, supreme delicacy that she was serving up. He's on the ground. He's tired. Is he just kind of rolling over and lapping out of the bowl? Perhaps so. Perhaps as much as suggested in the way that Deborah writes this song. Verse 26, her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck. Now notice the verbs. Notice the verbs. There's 4 of them piled up on each other. She struck Sisera. She crushed his head. She shattered and pierced his temple. It's narrative slow motion. She's slowing the song down so that in a non-video age, all those who've been oppressed under the regime of Jabin, the king of Canaan, and the tyranny of Sisera, the Canaanite general warrior, she's slowing down the song so that you can picture it. Yael's left hand slowly reaches for the tent peg. Her right hand slowly reaches for the hammer. And she doesn't just assassinate him. The economical way to say this is that Yael assassinated Sisera. Next verse. She's not economical. Music poetry isn't always economical. It'll pile words on words just so you get the message. And when we look at these 4 words, and it's Hebrew wordplay. If we would say those 4 words in Hebrew, they would have the sound of a hammer hitting a ground. And so when she says she struck, she crushed, she shattered, she pierced, pop, 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 pop. Verse 27. At her feet, slide 14, at her feet he sank. And the Hebrew word used here is not just at her feet, between her feet he sank. She's over top of him. He fell. There he lay. At her feet he sank. He fell. Where he sank, there he fell. Dead. It's repetitious. It's reliving the moment in narrative slow motion. And in the agony of his death, evidently Sisera raises up trying to realize what has happened to him, but it's too late. And he's at her feet. And to be more literally, he's between her feet. And when the writer sets it up this way, it's actually the Hebrew word for legs or feet is a common biblical euphemism for sexual genitalia, whether you're male or female. And so when you're said to be between someone's feet, it is a very explicit yet modest sexual connotation being communicated. And so the way he sets it up, this guy, Sisera, this mighty military general who has presided over the rapes of many Hebrew Israeli girls. He who thought after he was going to get a season of rest, a milkshake followed by a season of rest, and then who knows what inside the tent of a woman. He who thought he was going to do, and I say this professionally, he who thought he was going to do some piercing was pierced. This guy who had championed the raping of Israeli women is now the victim of a piercing. And he lies helplessly between her feet. Now, several miles away, Sisera's mother awaits his return. Deborah turns to the taunt part of her song in the last part of this. And in fact, some of you, as you look at this song, you would probably throw a flag for unnecessary taunting. She taunts Sisera's mother. Like I said, these heroes aren't perfect. She's just showing how she feels. She's heard all of these stories about these girls being kidnapped and abused, and she's trying to solve problems there under the tree, the palm tree. Remember we read that last week? She's running into all these problems. And finally, this guy that's been behind all of these problems, the crimes that have been committed has been eliminated. And he has been eliminated, and he's been played by Yael, who plays him perfectly. And now, Sisera's mother, verse 28, through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out. Evidently it's an upper story window, and the breeze could blow through this lattice work. She's kind of a royal, part of the royal family. It's a nice place for her to hang out. And she's in this royal palace, and she's waiting at the window, and she's watching in the distance. Sisera, come home, man. I want you to make it home. I want you to whip up on those Israelites and come home. And she's trying to come up with reasons why his coming has been delayed. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed? Oh, how I long to hear those hoofbeats. How I long to see the dust cloud in the distance of my son coming home. Ancient battle stories were largely a man's world, but not entirely. In the background of every battle story is the specter of the women wives and the mothers back in the city, awaiting the fate of their warrior husbands and sons in terrible anxiety. They waited. Their moments of waiting are an all or nothing prospect. Either they will be carried off into slavery, or worse, or they will enjoy the plunder from the vanquished enemy, all the freebies that have been confiscated in the battle. The moment of waiting is captured by a familiar motif in Deborah's song. It's a woman at the window. It's not just a woman. It is a mother at the window while the breeze is blowing through. And she's looking out of the window and she's wondering, will he make it home today? She's evidently surrounded by some royal attendants. And these royal attendants begin to see the consternation. She's woman, she's worried, she's a mother, she's trying to come up with these explanations. And so they jump in verse 28 on the screen, and they try to offer some consolation to this woman who's desperate to see her son, who has chosen all the wrong ways to live his life. The wisest of her ladies, verse 29, answer her. Indeed, she, that is Sisera's mother, keeps saying to herself, and she's repeating these possibilities over and over again to herself, trying to get some consolation at his absence. In slide number 15 on the screen, verse 30, are they not finding and dividing the spoils? Maybe there's so much this time in this battle, it's just taken way too much time. And that's possibly why he's late. Or maybe a woman or two for each man. You know how men are, right? Right, Sisera's mom? You know how men are. They're going to rape the women, ransack the villages, and maybe there's a lot of girls. Colorful garments as plunder for Sisera. Colorful garments, embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck. All this is plunder. Again, she's trying to come up with reasons that explain the lateness of the hour and why he's not coming home yet. And what's really crazy is that they talk about this kind of thing as if it's just another day in the park. It gives you indication as to the depravity of the times. In fact, looking over all of this morning, I don't think anything has changed. What woman does not love new clothes? Right? Women love clothes. And where's the amens? Thank you. Thank you. We got a few honest souls here. Sisera loved clothes too. She just wanted to wear hand-me-downs from Israeli nobility, confiscated by her warrior son who presided over the countless rapes of these women. But now, in all practicality, listen, I know ladies like to look nice. They like to present themselves well. They like to get a new outfit every now and then and find something on clearance at the Gap. Okay? But remember, just remember, a smile is a woman's best cosmetic. You can't beat a smiling woman, regardless of what she is adorned by or embroidered around her neck. And the best way to have a smiling woman is to have a man who loves her, yes, but to raise a son who honors God. See, she's worried about clothes because this guy has lived for all the wrong things. And that's all she had to smile about was an article of clothing. But marrying a God-honoring man and raising a God-honoring family will put a smile on your face faster than any garment you'd ever buy on clearance at the Gap. I'm a cheap skater too, okay? If I can find a t-shirt for $3, we'll do her. Okay? It's okay to wear clothing. Praise God. You got to have some clothes. Okay? Nobody wants to be around you if you're not going to have clothes on. You got to have clothes. But what role does it play in your life? You'd rather raise a godly son or look nice all the time? Give yourself to the right things, ladies. Now listen, guys, balance this out. Guys, has anything changed? Can't you picture those Canaanite warriors fighting in the battle? And then when it comes time to collect on their victories, to go into these manless, warriorless villages and pick these women off one by one. And these women who had become nothing more than sex objects, trophies of display as a form of victory from the battle. And these men weren't content with one female that God had provided, that is their wife. They had to have 2 or more females to consume. Listen, men, if you're going to lead in the dark ages, if God is going to raise you up and help you to be a hero, take all of your sexual energy to your wife and your wife alone. Not another couple of other women. It's going to destroy the ability that you have to be heroic in the dark ages. And when the text says in verse 30, are they not finding and dividing the spoils, a woman or 2 for each man? The Hebrew noun translated woman in the NIV literally means womb. And in Hebrew, but in this context, it refers by extension to the female genitalia, or we could say a womb or 2 for each man. It's crude metonymy, where the part is given for the whole. It's a literary and grammatical level insult for women in this time. a womb or two for each man. She says. It alludes to the sexual brutality which typified the aftermath of the battle. Women were just objects to consume, a body to have, a womb to use, according to Sisera's mother. This is what happened in the Dark Ages. In the Dark Ages, women are reduced to objects to consume, parts to consume. I was thinking about this week, and boy, this is so true. I think you see this on a number of levels. But there has been a reduction of women, and also a feminization of men. Our lusts have become so rampant. Our consuming mentality so prevalent that no longer women do the job. It's feminized men. It's so sad. And I looked, though, at Deborah, a mother in Israel, and Gabby read that verse, Judges 5, I think it is, where she calls herself a mother in Israel. And I compared Deborah, a mother in Israel, with Sisera's mother. On slide 16, you're going to see this. I just did a simple contrast chart so that you can kind of lay this out in your mind. Deborah, a mother, a godly mother. In fact, if you want to be heroic in the Dark Ages, line up with the blue side of the column. If you want to be an anti-hero and even an antagonist to all the purposes of God in the Dark Ages, in the here and the now, line up with the lady on the right. Deborah, a mother in Israel, focused on internal beauty. Sisera's mother was always about what I'm going to wear. Deborah, she sang a song of joy. Sisera's mother complained in bitterness, and she's always wondering, when is my son going to come home? Where is he and what's he into tonight? Deborah, the mother in Israel, walks with God. Sisera's mother paces in worry. Where's he at? Have I given myself to the right things? Oh, how I want to hear those hoofbeats. Son, come home. He never shows up. Deborah inspires others. Sisera's mother depresses others. Deborah defined reality. There's a better way to live. Sisera's mother denied reality. You eventually get caught. Deborah's mother sparked a great awakening. Sisera's mother, Deborah, the mother in Israel, sparks a great awakening. Sisera's mother generated the Dark Ages. Deborah created a legacy. Sisera's mother created a tragedy. Deborah was confident in the Lord. Sisera's mother was insecure in the gods. Deborah puts it on the line. Sisera's mother plays it safe. Deborah was mistreated. Sisera's mother was pampered. She stood up for what was right. Sisera's mother stood up for what was popular. Deborah affirms men in her story, even though they were hesitant to lead. Deborah found a way to affirm the men in her life, and women were valued as a result. And what we see in Sisera's mother is that women were degraded and they were devalued. Because in the spiritual Dark Ages, this is what happens. Now listen to me, friends. Listen to me. As you look this over and you think about this, I want to encourage each of you, especially if you're a mother, give yourself to the right things, because if you don't, there's so much on the line, the lives of your boys and your daughters. And I also want to say, and related to that, there's a real poignancy about a woman, either a mother or wife, standing and waiting for her husband or son to return from the battle. And just imagine, he doesn't come home that day. And she's looking expectantly through the lattice window. And it's a picture, a pathetic picture of hope where there is no hope. And she doesn't know what has happened. And she's wanting her son to come home, this boy that she raised. And little does she know that he's got a tent peg through his temple, staked to the ground of a Bedouin tent. because he chose all the wrong ways to live his life in the dark ages. Sisera's mother knew not that another mother had engineered the defeat of her son on the battlefield. She had no idea. And guys, if you have a godly mother who has prayed for you and raised you right, why don't you serve God? Don't make her wait on the second floor of her house waiting for you to come home and wonder where you're at. If you're a daughter, don't rip the heart of your mother out by living for all the shallow things that these Canaanites live for. Your mom and your dad want to look forward to your homecoming someday. They want to see you honor God with your life. They want you to show respect for God and honor Him and deny yourself these little pleasures in the dark ages that so many people get caught up in, and they take themselves right out of the heroic game. Because they refuse to say no to themselves and these little pleasures, and we get caught up in these things. You know, things like outfits, objectifying women, living for the here and now. Listen, especially if you've got a mother that's prayed for you and hoping the best for you and waiting for you to come home, don't deny her another day. Then don't just do it for her. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Because there's a mother out there, and she's hoping against hope that you're going to come home. And she's watching through that window, and she's pacing the floor, and she's trying to come up with these reasons of why you're being delayed. I want you to do the right thing this morning. I want you to come home. And I want you to be a hero and honor God in this way. Now, men, the hour is late here this morning. But I need to say something to you today. As I've thought about how best to present this, and I don't really know any other way to sugarcoat it, I just have to say it point blank. Okay? And nothing will take you out of the heroic game faster if you reduce women to just a womb to use, like Sisera had reduced the women in his life. In his book, The Centerfold Syndrome, psychologist Gary Brooks, PhD, he identifies 5 principal symptoms of what he describes as a pervasive disorder linked to consumption of pornography. Listen to this. This is the dark ages I'm talking about. 5 principal symptoms. First of all, voyeurism, he says. It's an obsession with looking at women rather than interacting with them. It's a glorification and objectification of women's bodies, promoting unreal images of women, distorting physical reality. It's some kind of a sexual fantasy without any attachment. And even though women are humiliated in hundreds of ways, the lie of voyeurism and pornography is that they actually enjoy these kinds of things. Number 1, voyeurism. Number 2, he says, objectification. It's an attitude in which women are objects rated by size, shape, and harmony of body parts. Says the doctor Gary Brooks. He says that women are called, quote unquote, bunnies, making them cute little animals, or playmates that makes them into a little toy to use or consume. It's objectification. We're seeing it prevalent in the dark ages. Number 3, he says validation. Women become property just like they did in the story here. A womb to use, and these men were validating their military exploits by kidnapping these Hebrew women, Israeli women, and using them as a validation of their masculinity. Number 4 is trophyism, says the doctor. The idea that beautiful women are collectibles. You have to win and conquer and score. And they're a trophy that you drape over your car and take a picture, and the implication is that if you get the car, you get the woman too. The 5th characteristic, says Dr. Brooks, is the fear of true intimacy. And those who have become ensconced in a life of pornography are deeply lonely people. And pornography is an easy end run around the problems of intimacy in a relationship. And thus, it's easy, guys, to get preoccupied with our sexuality and not have enough emotional energy and the capacity to engage in intimate relationship with men and for non-sexual relationship with women. Our lives are taken, they're gutted of their strength because of this prevalent issue. I don't know what percentage of the internet now is related to pornography, but it is an astounding percentage. I mean, it way up there. And it's amazing. I just tell you, I mean, you know, in my day, if I saw a picture of a sculpture in an encyclopedia, I thought I had seen pornography. And that was hard to see in my day. But in today's day, unbelievable. And early exposure, it guts a man for life. And early addiction, it takes him right out of the heroic game. Listen, 5 stages of addiction, quickly now. Most guys get addicted early in life, and they start viewing women a certain way. And it's not just guys anymore, it's women too. Addiction comes later, and by the way, if you're ensconced in an addiction, Celebrate Recovery does a great job of just helping you face that and helping you just to own that and move past it. Then there's escalation, where it's not just a bunny or a playmate, it's something more, far more. There's desensitization. And finally, there's the acting out phases where you just throw restraint to the winds and you give yourself to the dark ages. It's a tough place to be. This morning, the only way home is not just, it's a combination of things. It's mothering, it's fathering, it's parenting, it's pastoring, it's personal walk. There's so many things that have to come together for heroes to rise. And this morning, I just lay out a challenge for all the men, especially. Rise up, be heroic, rise above by God's grace. And see what He might do in the church body, men who are alive to God's true purposes. So may all your enemies perish, Lord, verse 31 says on the screen. But may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had peace for 40 years. The only way we're going to have peace is for us to begin to see God's perspective and view here in the dark ages. Now listen, God's giving you something to do. You want to sing your song. You don't want to be taken out of the game. And I want you to sing your song. I want you to wake up to this music that God's placed in your life. You have a calling. Some of you are good at things, and God wants you to be heroic in those things. And what your callings are, they come at us from different angles and ways. There's a conversation, there's an article, or there's a photograph, or there's an experience we have, and we wake up to something we really want to do. And I would just encourage you this morning, come alive to those things and not let these other things take you out of the game. Do what you do with grace and beauty, and God will raise you up and give you a song to sing. Come awake to your calling. Come awake. Be motivated to help others come awake too. You pray with me this morning. I thank you, God, for this day. I thank you for this group. I pray that you would give wisdom to all of us this morning as we look at these ancient stories. Give us insight, because we realize there's so much on the line. And I just pray for all the men. God, give us strength to honor you and to honor all the females in our lives, to honor the women in our lives, our mothers, and to honor our wives, and to honor our daughters if we have a brother and we're brothers and we have sisters and things. That we will honor and lift up the role of women in our lives and cherish and value them. And that our new community of believers would be known for how we cherish and elevate and enjoy and honor and respect the women in our lives. That we will have a distinctive characteristic around this place, that women will be treated with high regard. God, grant it, and then help the women to lead godly lives and not manipulate or control or try to twist things to their liking, but to simply realize that God's got a calling on their life and they're called to give themselves to the important things of life. God, help our men and help our women and be with our mothers and strengthen them as they endeavor to raise up heroes in the faith. In your name.